another episode of Adventures in Fly Tying with your friends from FlyFishOhio.com. I'm Joe Cornwall, your host. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 3. We have a fantastic fly for you today. This is the Kreel Craw. It's a fly that's designed for smallmouth bass, warm water. Of course, it works beautifully for trout. We have two variations, the Kreel Leech and the Kreel Claw. I love the Kreel Claw for springtime smallmouth bass fishing. In fact, I would go out in the month of March and the month of April and fish a Kreel Claw in black with blue flake rubber legs, and that would be my only fly I will need to bring with me for smallmouth bass. I like it that much, and I'll tell you why. It's got a crayfish kind of a profile, but more importantly than that, in the early part of the spring, this is a great imitation of a mad tom or sculpin or a hellgrammite, and especially with the leech tail, fabulous hellgrammite imitation. Lots of inherent motion, fish it slowly along the bottom. Great springtime smallmouth bass fly. The parts that we're using are made by the Kreel Tackle Company, and the Kreel Claws come in a package, and you buy them in various colors and you buy them in various sizes for the hooks that you're going to use, and the same thing happens with the Kreel Tackle leech tails. So that's a part that you can buy, or you can cut these shapes out of a suede or a chamois cloth. Let's go ahead and tie one. I'm going to be using today a Daiichi model 1750 hook. This is a size 4 4XL streamer hook with a ring eye. Now, before we use these Kreel tails, we have to do something a little bit different. It's hard to see through the camera, but there's a small hole right there, and we want to go ahead and pop that onto the hook before we begin tying. Now, you might have noticed that I'm using a cream-colored tail. I'm going to tie this in a slightly different color just so it shows up a little bit better on video for you. But you can tie this in a lot of different colors, and this works really well too. Start out, we're using a 210 denier flat wax nylon thread by bringing your thread right behind the hook eye. Get a good base of thread, the entire length of that hook shank. One of the things about this particular fly when we're tying it using the Kreel Claw is we're actually going to tie the materials somewhat onto the bend of the hook so that it imitates the nose of that crayfish, but more importantly it just covers that hook bend where this is going to be. So we need to cover that part of it right there. Very, very simple fly. We're going to use, for this particular model that we're tying, a sculpin olive chenille, woolly bugger chenille. Ordinarily you can use just a plain flat black chenille. I'm going to cut off a little bit of that. With this chenille, you remove a little bit of the material and tie onto the threads themselves. That's all you really need. Bring your thread back up to a point right about where the hook point is. Now, we're going to make just a few wraps inside there. And then we're going to tie that off with just a couple of wraps of thread. Position the Kreel Claw so that it's snugged up against that material, holding the whole thing together, making sure the Kreel Claw stays underneath. Just one or two more wraps to hold it in place. Now I can take my material out of the way and advance my thread to a point about 2/3 of the hook shank up. At this point we want to go ahead and tie in a lead eye. What I'm using is a medium lead eye. You can use a small on a size 4 hook or a medium. The medium is going to allow it to sink a little bit faster and to have a little more feel along the bottom. But you don't want to go too small. This is a heavily weighted pattern that needs to be fished on the bottom. If you're tying this instead of a size 4 and a size 6, I'd use a small or an extra small size. Make 4 or 5 crisscross wraps each way on that lead eye. Once you've done that, come over the hook shank and under the lead eye with a frapping wrap that tightens that up and gives that a good solid waist so that won't move. You want to leave your thread right behind where that hook eye is. Start wrapping your chenille once again. Up to the point where it gets to the hook eye. Just a couple of wraps to tie it off. Now we want to go ahead and tie in some rubber legs. In this case, I could be using the strands from a spinnerbait skirt, and that's what I really like for the black version. As you see here, that's black and blue flake, and that is a color combination that's just killer. To tie this particular version, which I would use later on in the year because it imitates an actual crayfish color a little bit better, I'm going to use a pumpkin flake silly leg, which is a softer material. I'm just going to take 2 of those legs and cut them off. Take the legs, double them up, and cut them in half. Now I have 2 legs for each side. Fold my material over. Just tuck it up behind that eye. Just that easy. Just a couple of thread wraps will hold it in. Take my 2 for the other side. Same thing. Fold them over the thread. Tuck them up inside. Now advance my thread in front of the hook eye. Now I can continue with my chenille, a couple of wraps behind. Take the chenille over the top. What I like to do then is come back, around behind it, and up under the bottom. That way we really fill that in well. A couple of tapering wraps towards the hook eye, and then just tie off that chenille. Clip away your excess material. Now we can go ahead and tie a small, neat thread head. Add a whip finish. And there you go. Very fast, very easy to tie. That is an excellent imitation of a crayfish. That's an excellent imitation when it's done in black of a Mad Tom or an early season crayfish. It's an excellent fly when it's done using the Kreel fly or the Kreel Tackle leech tail as an imitation of a Hellgrammite. Man, this is one awesome smallmouth bass fly. You got to tie you some of these. Thanks for joining us. Join us on the web at www.flyfishohio.com.